The Story of Insulin by Sofiia Cherpak
and Addy McOlde.
Insulin was approved by the FDA on October 28, 1982 in the US, but ever since then its prices have risen dramatically, showing that the pharmaceutical companies and the government have failed in their rights and responsibilities of making insulin affordable and available for everyone. This can cause individuals to ration their insulin and not be able to afford the care they need to survive, leading them to develop even more unnecessary illnesses. While diabetes is treatable and isn't always a death sentence now, there are still over 500 million people that live with either type 1 or type 2 diabetes worldwide, and over 1.6 million of those individuals die from diabetes every year, which is why it is so important to keep insulin prices low so everyone has access to it. The function of insulin is to move glucose from the bloodstream into your body's cells in order to produce energy. In diabetes, there isn't enough insulin, so glucose builds up in your bloodstream instead of providing energy to your cells.
The history of insulin. All these evolutionary people, such as Oskar Minkowski, Joseph von Mering, Sir Edward Albert, Frederick Banting, and Charles Best, led to the development of insulin. These individuals experimented first using dogs to find that the pancreas was responsible for insulin production. They went on creating a more pure and refined form of insulin from the pancreas of a cattle. Banting and his co-workers Charles Best and James Collins sold the insulin to the University of Toronto for just $1 because they wanted it to be available for everyone. Leonard Thompson was the first one to receive an insulin injection in Toronto, Canada, and within 24 hours, his high glucose levels dropped to fairly normal amounts.
In 1923, Banting and McOlde won a Nobel Prize for their research on insulin. Even though animal insulin saved many lives, it was never officially approved by the FDA. In 1941, the patent for insulin expired, which had required that no insulin could be sold without the Insulin's Committee direct approval in Toronto, Canada. Just 48 hours before the patent expired, the US passed the Insulin Amendment, which said that all batches of insulin have to be tested for strength, purity, potency, identity, and quality before marketing. This made sure that the insulin was safer to use and caused less death, but it made the process of getting insulin to the market longer. The newly purified insulin from animals was used for many years, but it wasn't perfect because it caused many allergic reactions in patients at the site of the injection. And insulin production and price is very dependent on the availability of animal glands, so it had an unstable nature.
In 1978, the first genetically produced synthetic human insulin was created with the use of E. coli bacteria, and it was made commercially available in 1982 under the name Humulin. This pure insulin also reduced the risk of producing anti-insulin antibodies, which could cause the insulin to not work as well or at all, and it was cheaper than animal insulin. This became the first product from this new technology to be approved by the FDA in 1982.
Insulin prices escalating. Since insulin was approved by the FDA, the prices have grown dramatically. In 1972, insulin was just $9 a vial, but it continues to grow and has increased to $33 in 1996. From 2012 to 2021, the prices have increased by a whole 184%. Renetta, a girl, had been using insulin since college and remembers it being just $2.50 a bottle, said. Hard to imagine that my 3 to 4 bottles a month cost $10 or less, and now my Epidural is listed at $103 a bottle.
Insulin prices compared to other countries. The gross price of insulin in the US is 9 times higher than the ones of 33 other high-income countries.
This is a normal everyday trip to the pharmacy.
Hitting the road to Canada in search of savings.
There has even been stories of Americans crossing the border to Canada just to purchase insulin at lower prices. Companies' effects on insulin prices. Chuck Grassley and Ron Wyden are part of the Senate Finance Committee and conducted an investigation to look into the opacity of pharmaceutical companies and the medicine market. The escalating price of insulin was the main topic being discussed in the investigation. They figured out why prices were going through the roof by reading 100,000 documents, which uncovered the biggest secrets pharmaceutical companies like CVS, Caremark, Express Scripts, OptumRx had to hide. The insulin companies were increasing their prices daily and even hourly to see who could get the highest price instead of seeing who could get the lowest price for buyers because they wanted to make more profit. The pricing of insulin is more expensive than when it is actually made. This is due to the copay amount the pharmacist evaluates. Step 1. The process starts with pharmaceutical companies and manufacturers who develop the insulin setting the list prices. Step 2. Wholesalers transport the insulin and sell it to a pharmacy for higher prices. Step 3. The patient pays the copay amount to the pharmacist, and they send a bill to the insurer. The Pharmacy Benefit Manager, PBM, is in the middle of this whole transaction, and they try to lower prices for consumers. However, they are still too high. The US government doesn't regulate the prices effectively, unlike many other nations. This allows the pharmaceutical companies to set list prices with minimum negotiations, making them elevated. There's also no requirement for transparency, allowing the companies to charge whatever they please.
Inflation Reduction Act.
Americans pay more for prescription drugs than anywhere in the world. It's wrong, and I'm ending it. We finally beat Big Pharma. Instead of paying $400 a month or thereabouts for insulin with diabetes, and it only costs $10 to make, they only get paid $35 a month now and still make a healthy profit.
In this video, Biden introduces the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, which has capped insulin prices at $35, and it has helped over 1.7 million diabetic patients who have Medicare. But according to the IRS, it is a 10-year plan, so not all changes will take place immediately. However, there's over 8.4 million people who have private insurance or none at all, and therefore the insulin cap did not help them. A family who lives in Edmond, Oklahoma, have a 14-year-old daughter named Lily who has type 1 diabetes. They have a very high deductible health plan, and because of this, they pay thousands of dollars for the medication each year. Family is very angry because it only costs $6 to make a vial of insulin, but they have to pay around $300 for the same thing.
California takes action. The biggest initiative to lower insulin prices is in California, where they are completely overtaking the system. Instead of purchasing insulin from large companies like Novo, Nordisk, and Eli Lilly, they want to produce their own. 25 states and the District of Columbia have applied monthly copay caps which offset expenses for diabetics. California wasn't one of those states, as they rejected the $35 monthly copay. Governor Newsom was the one who signed the law allowing California to manufacture its own insulin. He said that with the copay caps, the long-term prices are still passed down to consumers through higher premiums from health plans. Instead, companies in California are working with Civica on 3 biosimilar insulin products that would only cost $30 a vial. Their goal is to put patients first. Dr. Mark Gelly, Secretary of the California Health and Human Service Agency, said that California is trying to make the cost of insulin the same price as what it is to make it. In this case, it would only be $30 to purchase instead of $300. But the Civica RX and California project are over a year behind. They do not start the clinical trials or applied for approval from the Federal Food and Drug Administration.
And getting the FDA's approval when bringing new drugs to the market, especially ones that are produced by living organisms, can take years. So this plan will most likely take a long time. The reasoning behind why it takes so long for a drug like insulin to get approved is because, to be approved, several different things have to take place. First, the manufacturer has to prove that the manufacturing plant and process are both safe and repeatable. Next, they have to make sure that the raw drugs are potent and pure, and that it is stable in its packaging. Last, they must conduct highly extensive clinical and analytical testing to make sure that it is safe and similar to the name brand. Because of this process, prices of insulin are also raised to offset the cost of their development, research, and all other prototypes that do not make it to the market.
These high prices affect individuals. Families have protested against the high insulin prices because the lack of insulin has killed their family members.
The pharmaceutical companies wore some faults for her daughter's death.
Being a type 1 diabetic is extremely expensive. Insulin costs have risen dramatically. There are times that I have had to ration my insulin simply because it's so expensive.
And 1 in 5 individuals younger than 65 have reported that they have had to ration their insulin because of its high prices. That's 1.3 million adults. So, while for many families the prices of insulin have gone down, there are still many people who are not able to afford it, showing that the government has failed in their right and responsibility of making insulin affordable for all.